Good morning to you. I hope, I trust, I pray you are extremely well today. A lot of people say good morning to me when they watch these videos. And so here I am saying good morning to you. This morning, my bite-sized word comes from Jeremiah chapter 17. And I'm going to speak to you a little bit, very quickly, about trusting in God. It's so important for you and I today to know where our trust is. We can't trust in our own abilities. We can't trust in anything these days. The only place we find security is in our relationship with God, when we make Him our hiding place. So Jeremiah chapter 17 says this from verses 7 and 8. So I'm going to read it to you. Most of you know this already, but this is a bite-sized word of encouragement for you today to remind you of something that you may have forgotten. It says here, blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord. It sounds very obvious. If we trust in God, we're going to be blessed in everything we do. But that word blessed doesn't just mean we're going to feel good and be happy. That word blessed means empowered to succeed. And so whenever you read in that word, blessed is the man, blessed are those, you are empowered or enabled to be successful at what God has given you to do. And don't we need that today? We need empowerment from heaven. We need a touch from God. We need His help and His strength to stand in these days. So it says, blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord and whose hope is the Lord. And this is what happens when we are these people. For he or she shall be like a tree planted by the waters, which spreads out its roots by the river, and will not fear when heat comes. Have you ever seen those trees that are planted by waters, and you can see those roots have been spread out far and wide, and it's marked its territory. It has said, as if the tree has said, this is my space, this is where I belong. Nobody's going to pluck me out, pull me up by the roots and remove me. It's going to be a lot of hard work to remove that tree. And God promises, when we trust in Him, when our hope is in Him, we're going to be like that tree. Immovable, unshakable, no matter how strong the winds are that come. That tree cannot be uprooted because it's spread its roots out. And it will not fear when heat comes, but its leaf will be green, and will not be anxious in the year of drought, nor will cease from yielding fruit. So this tree, there's a picture here of a tree that does everything it's supposed to do. A tree is supposed to flourish. Its leaves are not meant to unless the season changes, and particular trees, the leaves are meant to be green on a tree, and it's meant to yield fruit. And so God takes this picture of a tree planted by a river, and He says this is what we're going to be like when we put our trust and our hope in Him. So the word trust is the word botak. Probably mispronounced, but it's spelled B-A-T-A with a little thing on the A, a little cap on top of the A, C-H. And it means to be confident, to be sure, and to be bold. The word hope, it says, whose hope is in the Lord. The word hope is the word, I'll give it a try, mibtok. Sounds like I'm speaking a totally different language here, but it's spelled M-I-B-T-A with a little cap on the A, C-H. And it means a refuge, security, and assurance. And so when God says, when we are confident, when we are sure, when we are bold because we trust Him, and we have made Him our refuge, our security and assurance, then we are going to be unshakable, immovable. We're going to be so confident in the keeping power of God that we will continue to yield fruit. We will continue to, our leaves will be green. In other words, people will look at us and they'll say, because you know the leaves of a tree are what make the tree a tree. They identify the tree. People will look at us and say, what is it about you that you can still have joy, you can still have peace, you can still do something and it succeeds? And here I am trying to start a business and nothing is happening. And I believe I'm speaking to somebody who has a business that they started, and everybody else is closing their doors and they're having to let staff go. And God says, if you put your trust in me, if you put your hope in me, then I will make you immovable, unshakable. I'm the one who's going to cause you to prosper, even in economic difficult economic times, I'm the one who's with you, and I'm the one who's going to help you to be unshakable, because you put your hope and your trust in me. It's very important that we know that is what we need to do these days. There is, in the book of Jeremiah chapter 17, if you read further on, it says, if you trust in man, you're going to be like a shrub in the desert. We don't want to be like a shrub in the desert. Just read a couple of lines. I've already moved to a different scripture. Just read a couple of lines back. We do not want to look like a shrub in the desert. If you live in South Africa and you have ever done a road trip through what we call the Karoo, there's the little Karoo and the great Karoo. And I'm telling you, either one of those, when you are in a car doing a road trip through that area, all you see are these little shrubs, and there's nothing there. There's probably plenty of life that's hidden away under those little shrubs, but we know we've hit the Karoo area when we begin to see the greenery change, and it's not really greenery anymore. It just becomes these little shrubs, and we say, okay, now we know we are in the Karoo. And then you get to another area outside of the Karoo area, and you begin to see the plantation gets bigger and more flourishing. But the reason is the Karoo, there is not much rain that happens there. It's a very dry area. And so we do not want to be those people who put their trust in man, because we know that man will disappoint. Man will let us down. It's very few and far between when you find people you can trust and they just remain constant. They are there. We need to be those people, but they remain constant. They support you. They pray for you. They don't speak behind your back. And they just say, I'm here for you. Now God is like that to us. He's here for us. And he says, put your trust in me, not in man. Love man. You can have friends. You can have people who pray for you and people who are accountable to you, but basically put your trust in me above all of that, above everything that you think you can do yourself, and you can put your confidence in that. Put your trust in me. Then you're going to be immovable and unshakable. Now here's another scripture in Psalm 25, and it says this in verse 12. Who is the man that fears the Lord? Him shall he teach in the way he chooses. When we fear the Lord, it means we are putting him above everything else. That's what it means to fear the Lord, to place his opinion, give it the highest priority. Whatever God says we are going to do, that's living a life that fears the Lord. It's not being afraid of him in case he beats you up. It's saying, God, you are more important to me than anything and anyone else, and I want to obey you only. I want to hear your instructions, and I'll do what you tell me to do. And when we do that, then God will teach us in the way that he chooses. He'll show us the ways that are our ways, and then he'll show us his ways that are always better than our ways. Isaiah 55, his thoughts are higher than ours, his ways are better than ours. And this is what God will begin to teach us when our trust is in him, when we make him our refuge, when our hope is in him, when our security and our confidence is in him. He begins to show us his better way. And in these days, we need to know the better ways of God and the higher thoughts of God. And he says, he himself shall dwell in prosperity, and his descendants shall inherit the earth. Dwell in prosperity, we are going to see the goodness of God. Today, no matter what is going on around us, no matter what's happening in the economy, no matter how high the petrol price goes or the cost of food, whatever you need, there's a promise here that when we live according to the ways of God and we let him teach us his ways and we follow his ways, we will dwell in prosperity. We will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. We will see his faithfulness on our lives. And the greatest thing about this, the rest of this promise in Psalm 25, verse 12 and 13, is that our descendants will inherit the earth. The promises that we walk in, the ways that we walk in, our descendants, our families, and people we are ministering to will follow us and say, we see what you do. Now we want to step into that as well. We want to live a life that shows that we put our trust in God, that our hope is in him. We've seen his faithfulness, and we choose to walk in a way that fears God because we want to be pleasing to him. It says here, the secret of the Lord is with those who fear him, and he will show them his covenant. My eyes are ever toward the Lord, for he shall pluck my feet out of the net. When we walk a life that is pleasing to God, that's doing it his way, whatever traps the enemy sets out before you to distract you, to destroy you, to steal, kill, and destroy, God says when our eyes are on him, he'll pluck us out of those traps and he'll protect us. So that was Jeremiah 17:7-8. And Psalm 25:12-15. So I trust that you're encouraged with that today, to have a day, a season, a life of hope, trust, and the fear of God, to see his goodness and his empowerment on your life. Be encouraged with that today.